Welcome everybody to the Township of North Frontenac's regular council meeting, September the 18th. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior or comments. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as the gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. And three, approval of agenda.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, second by Councilor Fowler. Be resolved that council approves the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated September 18th, 2025. As
Comments? In favor? Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? And we'll let you know. Seeing none. Council, CAO, and managers and administrative reports. Box is online.
moved by Councilor Fowler, second by Councilor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the manager of community development's administrative report entitled 2026 Pilot Program Shabamika Lake Boat Launch Boat Trailer Storage at Parking Area. And that bylaw 5123, a bylaw to regulate the parking of vehicles, boats, and trailers within the Township of North Frontenac, regulates the use of township owned and maintained parking areas. And that section 5E of bylaw 5123 state that no person shall park or store any boat or trailer on township owned, operated, or maintained vehicle parking areas for longer than 72 hours unless connected to a licensed motor vehicle. And that Shabamika Lake has a number of water access only properties whose owners rely on the Shabamika Lake boat launch for access to their properties. And that council recognizes the unique challenges faced by these property owners. Therefore, be resolved that council authorizes a 2026 pilot program exempting Shabamika Lake water access only property owners from section 5E of bylaw 5123 for 2026, subject to the following conditions. 1, each property shall be permitted to store one boat trailer at the Shabamika Lake boat launch parking area. Property owners must register their boat trailer with the township, providing the license plate number on or before April 1st, 2026. All boat trailers must be removed for the winter months, November 30th to April 1st, to allow for snowplow operations. Or any boat trailers not registered with the township prior to April 1st, 2026 will be considered in contravention of bylaw 5123 and will be subject to enforcement. And number 5, the township will review the program at the end of 2026 season to determine whether it should be continued, amended, or terminated.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor.
I have a couple of concerns. Brooke, if you can hear me, this is a new burden in your job description, keeping track of administering this system. Just seems like we keep piling new stuff on you. I'd certainly like to know from you if this is starting to get out of hand at all. That's my first concern. Second concern is there were 3 responses from local lake owners, and the message seems to be people are buying bigger pontoon boats, and that's part of the problem. It's take up a lot of space. Wayne, do you have any thoughts on this, or are you aware of that situation at that lake? I read the reports there too on John, and I was wondering too, did it say boat access? I'm not, I mentioned boat access. Property. Water access. Yeah, I read that too. They have bigger boats, but I just I see the concerns that we have with if everybody leaves a trailer there, they're still going to take up a lot of the parking. I don't know what's the best answer. I guess this is just to try it for this season, and
doesn't work out, then we can amend it. But I kind of wonder if we shouldn't not put it this way, in sixth season, but, or as the discretion of the council, we need to file the complaints and have some bylaws. Should be discretion.
We had decided previously that we would do, I know we can reverse it, we decided previously that we'd do it for 1 year. Hopefully that will be able to find another place, or maybe it will work, and maybe it won't, maybe. You know, I think we should follow through on the way that it is. And, see, I'm really interested to hear from Brooke, and the end of the year, Brooke, when you do a report back to us, I would like to know whether what the deputy mayor said, what the impact is on you and your staff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I can definitely report back on staff impacts and what we're hearing from the boat access property owners in regards to, you know, the couple concerns that we have had about lack of parking for vehicles.
Thank you. Call the resolution. In favor of the resolution? That resolution is carried. Okay. All right, so the next one is item 5B, EV chargers.
Moved by Councilor Fowler, second by Councilor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the manager of community development's administrative report entitled Electric Vehicle Charging Stations Revenue and Expenses. The council approves setting the EV fast charger rate at 75 cents per kilowatt hour to help offset high delivery charges, with revenues and usage monitored monthly. And the staff and council continue to advocate to the Ontario Energy Board for review of delivery charge structures for EV charging sites.
Comments? Councilor Hermer.
Well, it's unfortunate that this happened, but when I first read this, I was kind of shocked. So I just went on the internet and in about less than 5 minutes, I was aware of the fact that there was a commercial charge for EV chargers based on the maximum capacity of that unit. And I'm surprised that someone didn't pick up on that.
You're paying power that you need. Deputy Mayor.
Brooke, would you like to comment on what you heard about possible changes in 2026 rates from coming out of the OEB?
Absolutely. Thanks, John, for that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did receive some further clarification from another EV charger kind of company that manages these. So the 13.1% rebate we're seeing now on our electricity bills. However, coming January 2026, there is going to be a further new EV charging rate coming from the Ontario Energy Board that Hydro One will need to charge our bills by. And based on their internal estimators, it's estimated that we could potentially see up to 50% off of our current hydro bills. So I think we are going to see some better stuff coming in the future. And these new rates to also increase the revenue should help. Between that, 13.1% and potentially another 50% off of the bills. Hopefully we'll be in a better position.
So Corey and I, the CAO and I have a meeting scheduled with Hydro One next week. And they reached out to us. We haven't reached out to them yet. And I've already talked to with the MP and the MPP, so grounding it, which is something to do to make this a much more comfortable. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I must. I don't like the white element, not here.
Okay. I have some other opinions on this too. I know where you're coming from. But make it here. Okay, in favor of this resolution? Carry. And so that takes us to C, Manager Community Development Local 2025 Local Government Week, October 14th to the 20th.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, second by Councilor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's Administrative Report entitled 2025 Local Government Week October 14th to the 20th. And that the Township of North Frontenac hereby proclaims the week of October 14th to the 20th, 2025 to be Local Government Week in North Frontenac Township and approves the proclamation included in the administrative report. And the council approves the Local Government Week Commission.
Comments? I have one. The budget's only $200 for this, and we're talking about giving 7 students X amount of weeks, and then that we have the fire chief taking one of the students out for lunch and so on in the trucks. And we're talking maybe just going back to every second year. I know that's still up in the air, but is the $200 enough? Like, where's the money coming from? Should we be increasing this to $400 or $500? That's the only question. Corey, could you answer that, please?
I can answer that, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah, so this year with $200, so the prize packs that we provide for the mock council contest come from our free internal promotional materials. So there's really no budgetary cost there. And then, so the $200 is mainly for the lunch with the fire chief, for the badge, and then, maybe some printing or something like that. So for this year, $200 is suffice. Again, if we do decide and council approves at budget time to do an event for next year, would certainly require some more budgetary dollars.
Thank you. In favor of this resolution? Gary. The next item is item 6, business profile, Deborah Stanley, interior decorating.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the business profile of Deborah Stanley, interior decorating, provided by the Economic Development Task Force.
Comments? In favor? Gary. Item 7. We have Bob Lesbos for Subplot Construction. Got a presentation for us on the tiny home business model and answer to housing. We'll reach a second. We only got half a stack here tonight.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak. So basically, this is an idea of a plan that. Oh, yeah, I just, it's an intro. Oh, I don't know. So this is basically an idea for essentially us as a township and residents and everybody that's concerned with the environment and housing and all these problems that we're going to be facing as a whole to build on. It's the local policies and a lot of the residents all support the idea that we need to recognize this as a problem. And then it opens up doors to job creations. It opens up the doors to more sustainability when it comes to maybe an income for the township itself, which they can in turn either reinvest and build more, or at the end of the investment horizon, they can cash in their chips and say they tried it, and that's that. So. So few questions with each slide. I'll have a few of the questions that I think that will enter your guys' mind, and hopefully I can address some of them. So basically, question number one would be, what is the current market demand for affordable homes, tiny homes, for Southern Ontario, Eastern Ontario? So basically, is the demand for these affordable and tiny homes is growing due to affordability challenges, urban densification, and environmental concerns. The industry itself reports an 8% over the next 5 years increase in consumer interest in affordable housing and tiny homes. The traditional people buying 3,000 or 2,000 square foot bungalows and raised bungalows and two-story houses and all that, it's slowly going to the wayside for the youth and the aged community. So market demand for tiny homes and affordable homes through demographic groups says that, and this is from the Ontario Ministry of Municipal Housing and Affairs that I got in touch with, and it shows that their demographics include young professionals, retirees, low-income families, students, and others seeking affordable rents and starter homes. The report shows that there could be anywhere in the next 2 to 5 years an upwards to 28% increase in all of those age categories individually needing this type of framework or an idea. So this would essentially be a pilot program. I don't know if there's too many other smaller townships like us that are doing things like this that would eventually, that would essentially create a return on investment specifically for the township itself. There's a lot that are privately being done. There's a lot that are being done with investors. I don't know too many that from a township standpoint that are doing this because as the township being the investor. And I know that seems scary, but with every decent idea always carries with a certain amount of risk. So the demand again, so the demand for tiny homes and affordable housing is a issue. Environmental concerns are an issue. Competitive landscapes are gearing the industries into stepping away from traditional housing. A lot of people are trying to get away from traditional housing options, apartment complexes. A lot of people from the cities are moving. They're desiring remote work atmospheres, which is essentially rural communities. And housing affordability. So rural communities and rural areas as a rule has a lower cost for land as a rule compared to cities. So you have an opportunity to maybe build a little bit bigger of a home or spend a little bit more on the finishes and so on. So this creates a less risky situation for an investor because basically it would mean that especially as the North Frontenac would be concerned, you guys have land at your disposal that the township owns that you could essentially rezone or redesignate as you kind of see fit. So in order for you to come up with a property to do something like this would be easier than a regular investor trying to seek out property, purchase that property. And Stats Canada basically for Southern and Eastern Ontario, if you average it all, 1 to 2 acre lot is about $200,000 right now to buy it. And obviously around here, it's not going to be that much. And if it's in the case of the township having their own properties, that's zero because you already have it. You don't have to purchase it. And if it's not being used for anything, it's not really creating an income now anyway. But if it were to create an income, if we were to build a small development, the initial cost of trying to find property would not be an issue, whereas anywhere else it would be. Next one, please. Okay, so Tiny homes feature modern designs, sustainable materials, pricing set to attract a broad customer base. This can be achieved in either a build-on-site approach or a factory-built approach. I'm suggesting somewhere between the range of 500 to 900 square feet max, because if there's a fine line between affordability and building a big home. If you're going to build a massive home, it's not going to be affordable, really, in this day and age for materials and all that. But from here on out, I'm going to lean more on the factory built homes, because it carries with it a whole bunch of securities that I'll get into later. So the features are modern designs, energy efficiencies. A lot of these places now are becoming a lot more competitive. So customizability is quite high with these factory built homes, and a lot of them are sustainable and eco-friendly materials. The benefit to factory built homes is exactly, it's in the title. They're factory built, so they're inside a heated, controlled environment. You don't have to try to frame something in 40 below. Generally, these guys get paid well to do what they're doing, and they are more concerned about a profit margin themselves. So they build things very efficiently. There's a lot less waste, and timelines from order to ship to move in is substantially shorter. We're talking maybe between 8 to 12 weeks for construction, delivery, let's say a week, if not less. And then within 3 to 4 months, depending on your well, your septic, and all that stuff, after that, people are moving in, and now you're generating an income from that unit. And again, from here on out, I base this all on actual factual information from either Stats Canada or CMHC. So there are going to be numbers in here that seem a little higher, but again, it's an average for Southern Ontario and Eastern Ontario, because it's numbers that I can prove. I don't want to have a whole lot of hypotheticals, because with that creates a whole lot of questioning and gray areas. So there are going to be numbers in here that are missing, such as your hydro layouts, cost of poles and stuff like that, because again, all of that has too many what ifs because of demographics that I can't answer right now, because I don't know what the land would look like. So actually, things. So the first one is a revenue model based on if every single unit out on a 10-unit development had its own services, had its own well, had its own septic. So a proposed rent for these units would be $1,500 a month. And that's again based on the cost of buying it from the factory, bringing it here, and all of that, which essentially $1,500 a month for 10 units, the yearly income before we pay anything is $180,000. So the well costs for individual services. So a midpoint, your average well is anywhere between 13.8 and 22.6. So a midpoint is 18.2 for a well in this area. Again, with a septic, again, a midpoint would be 19,600 for your average run-of-the-mill septic, without really knowing what the ground is right now. So with all that and maintenance cost. So if it's going to be a rental unit, if it's going to be a lease to own unit, essentially in this idea, the township is basically the landlord or the leaseholder, while these people are paying a lease agreement. So with that comes maintenance costs. So in this idea, in this revenue model and in the next one, it all incorporates hiring a municipal employee, paying them, anywhere between 50 and, in this case, $59,300 a year, plus any potential repair costs for those 10 units. So if we take that and we times the maintenance cost and a municipal employee by a 20-year investment horizon. That's $1.186 million plus any repair material. All that boils down to a 20-year income without any rental increases divided by the initial investment, which is 2.9. Your return on investment is 122%, which you can't find good investments on any of the stock exchanges with returns on investments that have a lower risk with that. And this is with individual services. Next one, please. So this one here is communal services. Again, we're using a lot of the same numbers. Proposed rent is $1,500 a month. So the yearly income is the same. So communal well costs. This is where things get a little bit more expensive, but these are initial more expensive because the maintenance and stuff like that later on for treatments and all that stuff become less. So midpoint for a communal well would be about 30 grand. Treatment cost would be about 3,500. These are just initial, they're not ongoing. And then communal septic system would be somewhere around 113 for 10 units. So again, boiling all that back down, a yearly income, or 20-year income with that month rent times 10 times 20 years, $3.6 million gross revenue in township. And then we look at it that at this model shows a better return on investment because again, we're not doing things, a couple of things times 10. So essentially we end up spending a little bit more in the beginning, but over the course of 20 years, we don't really spend the same amount. So, and with this, so like we have maintenance. So when it comes to the maintenance guy, I boiled it down. It's in my hand, the other part of this. So basically he would be in charge of things like power washing and cleaning stuff, the grass cutting, tree trimming if needed, snow removal, things that we all take care of ourselves, but it's all in with the municipal employees' scope work. We can also, you could also designate that in the lease agreements for each person to look after their own, and in which case, for the most part, we could get rid of the maintenance cost or a maintenance employee altogether. Okay, so next one, please. Okay, so now we're back to, on-site building versus pre-builds. So building on site. So a lot of times building on site, a lot of us here have either built homes or had homes built or had people come in and do renovations or whatever. At any given point in time, you can look at the contractor and say, you know what, I want to move this over here. I want to paint this a different color. I want to add another room. It's fully customizable. It always has a potential of having lower material costs because we have the ability to just run over here to the hardware store and get what we want. Trouble with that is the labor costs are always more. There's always longer time frames and turnover times because a build on site could be somewhere between 3 to 6 months. By the time you do your well, your septic, your foundation work, your framing, and all of that, and the construction expertise. Not every builder is the same, but if you buy it in a factory built or a pre-built, it's going to be more consistent, energy efficient wise. They're going to be a lot better built, and especially if because right now there's about 40 to 50 factory built home manufacturers in Ontario that understand our climates, that understand Ontario demographics. And so you can obtain a permit, you can get all the engineer drawings, you can have all this stuff figured out as they're building it, you're prepping the sites. So again, it's one of those things that you got to weigh the pros and cons, and I've tried to outline a few of them here. That pre-builts are going to be obviously compliant to building codes. They're probably gonna be better insulated because they have to follow manufacturer specifications and all that stuff. It's just an overall better option if it comes to an investor looking to spend money. And because the quicker they're built, the quicker they're placed, the quicker they're rented, the quicker you have money back in your pocket to pay for it. And in terms of paying for it, right now, according to Stats Canada, the average rent for a 900 to 1,200 square foot anything, apartment, bungalow, whatever, is $2,000 per. So that's not going to get any cheaper because your average inflation rate is 3%. And if they follow inflation or if they follow the ability to increase rent 2.5% every year, you're looking at basically pricing out half of the people that can afford it, whether they're the youth, whether they're retirees, remote workers, whatever. In this plan, even if we did increase the rent every year by a modest 1.5%, we wouldn't, in a 20-year scope like this is talking about, we wouldn't even be at today's rent until 2037. So it holds with that a sense of attraction for people to come, for people to lease to own, for people to rent, people to move to the area, and then in turn, it's a double-edged sword. If people are here, they're investing in the community, they're becoming involved, they're starting businesses, because a lot of youths now are becoming more entrepreneurial. So they're starting newer ideas. They're getting a lot more done compared to previous years. So the fact that they can come here and afford to live, they will put roots down and have no problem signing on a dotted line for a lease. So, yeah. Okay, so some of the key questions. I know that this idea carries with it some risk. And again, it's one of these things that we're talking 1.6 to $1.8 million investment. And these numbers are based on there's no grants. Like I don't know what the grants are. I don't know what the incentives are. So that's my point. So I can't prove those. I can't show those. So these numbers reflect that. It's as if North Frontenac did this all on their own. No help, no county help, no federal help, no provincial help, nothing. So it's a pilot project. If we are able to do this and to start a framework to build on, if this idea helps in that in any way, that's great. There's probably lots of holes in this idea. That's okay. That's why I brought it here. But if we're able to do this and be successful, what's to say that we can't start with 10, then go to 50, then go to 100, then take some of this revenue and build things to attract more people, open up more businesses, help people with other township incentives to start businesses. Like I'm not sure of the particulars, but Verona just got 1 point something million contribution to their housing initiative. If that is the case, then if they got $1.2 million for a portion of their housing initiative, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe we can. Okay, $3 million. Okay, so yeah, so okay, so this whole idea will cost 1.8. So if they get 1.2 or 3 or whatever for their idea or their initiative, I don't know what they're doing with it, but that would more than cover the cost of this idea, or at least start of an idea. So what are the benefits to having a tiny home? Or I kept putting tiny home in this, but it could be affordable home, or how they want it worded is a entry-level dwelling. The benefits include that the houses are affordable. They're the construction is rapid. It minimizes the land use because of the fact that we're leaning more towards or I would suggest leaning more towards a communal services based. It's a less impact on the environment. It shows that we're attempting to push a greener agenda. It promotes sustainability, not only we're creating sustainable housing for residents. The township as basically the front man of it is creating a sustainable income for themselves. And it fosters community development. Are tiny homes or affordable homes financially feasible for rural areas? Yes, they are. They're affordable alternative to traditional housing with lower construction costs and potential to be subsidized with land or grants. There's probably a lot more. I have a lot more questions and a lot more information. Tried to summarize this. Not to draw this out. You guys have any questions? I'd be happy to entertain a few.
Okay. Okay, well, first things, anybody in council, any questions?
Probably
Councilor Fowler.
Thanks for the presentation. I always think back when I was young, living in a small basement apartment in the French. Unfortunately, today we don't have the opportunities. Like I could go to when I bought my first house, I could go to the mortgage housing company and they'd help me pay that first 4% of the house to get a mortgage. That doesn't exist anymore. Also, you're talking about initial investment. You're gonna have some money to put up. I don't think you can go to a bank and borrow this kind of money with this kind of thing, but it's a good idea. Tiny home, I don't know how it lasts in a tiny home, but you live where you can, like the basement apartment.
Well, so again, I mean, I'll be humble enough to say there's some, it's just it's an attempt at a framework for an idea, which hopefully, with help from the economic task force, the environmental task force, the housing task force, there has to be a partnership with everybody trying to figure out how to do this. And so when it comes to the finance, so I've spoken to a few investors and just kind of threw the idea at them and I said, what are you guys looking for? You guys are itching to spend money, essentially. And all three of them, different walks of life, different genres of how they made their wealth, they all came back with the same sort of answer. And that answer was, so you're going to go to your local council and you're going to ask them if they're willing to spend $1.8 million. You're a braver man than I am. And they said the second thing is we look for profit margins, anything above 5%. Most of the investors said that I talked to them. And the third thing that touches on what you just said is if the township was willing to be on board with any part of it, whether it's a 10%, 5%, they're willing to say, here's the land side portion of the investment, whatever the case may be. As an investor, and all three of them said this in their own words at different times, whatever percentage that the township is willing to do, make sure that they basically have that in writing, because then you can come back to us and say, okay, township's willing to do X, Y, Z. Now we have to come up with 8 weeks. That creates a stable foundation for them to invest in, because then they know that somebody, not just a small time contractor, has an idea. Now that small time contractor has somebody else interested that has a lot more clout than I can. I hope that makes sense. Else?
So there are 3 members here of this new housing task force, all of them.
Okay.
I've certainly had ideas, some very similar, but I've
personally was thinking of 2 or 3 tiny home development. I think 10 may be a little ambitious to start with. I don't know. But big question for me, I think, is to what extent does the township act as an entrepreneur? Basically, municipalities are very conservative. I'm just going to have to be public money.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, well, what would be appropriate for such development? I think the safest thing for municipality would simply perhaps provide the land and perhaps pay for permitting costs. We tried this once before, about 5 years ago. We put out an RFP for looking for a private developer to build, I think it was a 5-unit development. We got no responses, 0 responses. So we're kind of feeling a little burned about that.
Yeah, so I tried a 1-unit. And okay, a pilot project, start small, see what happens. So, and the return on investment wasn't good. People had about it. Then I tried 3, like 5. Yeah, I got it off the pin on the bottom, but not much. 10 was it seemed like a magic number where the needle jumped suddenly. And it stays consistent, but obviously the numbers get bigger from 10 units to 50. The ROI stays about the same. And obviously the numbers get bigger. But then when you go 100 plus, then you're talking real dollars, but then you're talking real risk. So I know what you're saying, John, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of, I don't think it's as much risk as certain other things that maybe can be taken on. I don't know where the money would all come from. It would be probably a mixture between private and public partnerships. But again, speaking with those investors, they would want to know basically where the township would stand. Would they back it with even something like what you had just suggested? Here's the land, or we'll waive the permit fees, or whatever the case may be, but they would want to know where things stood. Because then that shows that township's on the board with it.
Thank you very much. I wish you would have come to the Housing Advisory Task Force first, but you chose to come here. And that's fine. So this is, you read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved, the council receives for information a presentation from Rob Lesperance, Southpaw Construction, regarding tiny homes, and thanks him for his time spent today.
Favor of the resolution?
If you ever want an audience on your task force, then
Good night. Everybody have that back in mind. We have no delegations. Item 9, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved, the council adopts the minutes of a regular meeting held August 28, 2025 as written.
Comments? In favor? Carried. So business arising out of the minutes, resolution 222-25, automatic aid agreement with Central Frontenac.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler, whereas at the meeting held July 10th, 2025, council passed resolution 222-25, receiving for information the Director of Emergency Services, Fire Chief's administrative report entitled 2025 automatic aid agreement between Central Frontenac and North Frontenac. The council approved in principle the agreement, which was provided to Central Frontenac Council for consideration. Now therefore be resolved that Central Frontenac Council approved and signed the agreement, and the council will consider a bylaw to sign the agreement later in the meeting.
Comments? In favor? Carried. So item 10B, resolution 150-25, monthly usage report for August, electric vehicle chargers.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer, whereas at the meeting held April 25th, 2025, council instructed the manager of community development to provide monthly usage reports of the EV chargers Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information EV usage report for August 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 11A, communications of interest.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, seconded by Councilor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information Section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. And so, item 11B, action items. Confirmation request.
Moved by Councilor Fowler, seconded by Councilor Hermer.
Okay, so we're going into the Stanley Swim Program. Okay,
Moved by Councilor Fowler, second by Councilor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information an email dated September 7th, 2025 from Jolene England, volunteer coordinator for Sand Lake Swim Program, advising the program has had a significant increase in swimmer registration over the past 2 summers. However, there has also been an increase in the number of local families unable to pay registration fees for their children, grandchildren to participate, and that the program will not refuse any family who wishes for their children to participate in learning life-saving swim skills. And that due to these increases, SLSP is requesting an increase in their annual funding from the township from $1,500 to $2,000. And the council directs staff to include the additional $500 funding request from the SLS in the staff prepared budget for the mayor's consideration as part of the 2026 budget.
comments? Councilor Hermer.
Well, I think it's important that we support this because it's been a program that's been on for years and it seems to be growing in numbers. So I think it's important.
Councilor Good.
Yeah, the same with the Basel program as well. Might be a little bit question, but
One leads to the other, right? I think $500 is reasonable. In favor of the resolution? Carried. So item B2, Kingston Frontenac Public Library request to declare October as Canadian Library Month.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, second by Councilor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information a letter dated September 17th, 2025 from the Kingston Frontenac Public Library regarding Canadian Library Month 2025. And that the public library invites people to learn and connect. And that the public library builds and supports community by creating inclusive spaces, services, and collections. And the council recognizes that the Kingston Frontenac Public Library provides a vital service to our community. The council proclaims the month of October to be Canadian Library Month 2025, and at the week of October 19th to October 25th, 2025, the Ontario Public Library Week, with council encouraging all residents to use the public library this week and throughout the year. The council instructs staff to include this proclamation on the township website and social media throughout the month of October.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, item 12A, Shore Road Allowance application for approval in principle. Jolie Nicolaisen.
Moved by Councilor Fowler, second by Councilor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principle, Jolie Nicoliza, and the council approves in principle the application to close Stop Up itself, part of the Shore Road Allowance lying in front of Lot 1, Registered Plan 1144, Geographic Township of Clarendon on Pine Lane.
Comments? In favor? Carried. So we're looking at item 12B, Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw Camp.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, seconded by Councilor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Closure and Sale Bylaw Camp. That as required by bylaw 2025-04, the following be declared as surplus and sold to the adjoining owner. All that part of the Shore Road Allowance lying in front of Lot 9, Southwest Range, Geographic Township of Clarendon, being Part 1 in Registered Plan 13R23399. And that an appraisal of the property is not necessary, as this is a Shore Road Allowance. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting. So this portion of the Shore Road Allowance.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12C, voting method for the 2026 municipal election.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information an administrative report from the clerk planning manager entitled Voting Method for the 2026 municipal election. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize internet telephone voting in the 2026 election.
Comment. Counselor Fowler, Counselor Herman.
I still like the old way. I think it's more safe, but we've been using this ever since I've been on council.
Counselor Herman.
Well, a lot of our residents are seasonal, so I think this gives them the opportunity to vote.
In favor of the resolution? Resolution carried. Item 12D, Fire Prevention Week.
Moved by Counselor Farmer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief's Administrative Report entitled Fire Prevention Week, October 5th to 11th, 2025. And that the North Frontenac Fire Department is joining forces with the not-for-profit National Fire Protection Association to remind and educate local residents about the importance of charge into fire safety lithium-ion batteries in your home. And the council declares October 5th through 11th, 2025 as Fire Prevention Week. And the council approves of the North Frontenac Fire Department's planned events and demonstrations. And the council instructs the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief to place a copy of the mayoral declaration and an advertisement outlining the events associated with the Fire Prevention Week and emphasizing the importance of the Charge into Fire Safety Lithium-Ion Batteries in Your Home campaign in the Frontenac News and on the township's social media and website.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12E, Direct Emergency Service / Fire Chief, Post Fire Protection Grant Application for 2025, 2026.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief's Administrative Report entitled Proposed Ontario Fire Protection Grant Application for 2025 to 2026. The council instructs the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief to make application for the Ontario Fire Prevention Grant for an estimated $48,000, $16,000 per fire station for NFPA compliant dual certified personal protective gear and particulate filtering flash hood. And the council authorizes the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief to sign the agreement for funding if the application is successful.
Comments? Deputy Mayor.
Madam, this, first item, dual certified personal protective gear. Is that bunker gear?
Mr. Mayor, through you, it's not bunker gear, as you know it. It's an alternative to replace, coveralls and provide, a tremendous, higher level of protection, both for wildland firefighting, for vehicle extrication, for medical response, in addition to our bunker gear.
So this is all about possibility of cancer protection. So there's a material that's absent from these new ones. Could you explain what that is?
That's correct. So bunker gear is made, majority of bunker gear is made with PFOS, which is a short form for a really long name that is a cancer causing chemical.
Thank you for not sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so there's a lot of departments that are taking initiatives to, what else is there, right? We have to have bunker gear because we're required to respond to remote alarms, CO calls, structure fires, that sort of thing. So we have to have bunker gear, but we don't have to be in bunker gear for 90% of the service we provide. What's the alternative to that? Is this is a really great solution. So far to date, a lot of departments use coveralls, which identifies as a firefighter, don't really offer a lot of extra protection. This stuff is a really great answer to an alternative to bunker gear.
Thank you. Any other comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. Item F, Public Works Manager, required fencing upgrades at the Flevna West Waste Site.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved, the council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled Required Fencing Upgrades at the Plevenor Waste Site, and that the fencing project is required to address an existing non-compliance at the waste site as identified by the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. And the council instructs the treasurer to transfer the estimated $15,000 plus HST for the project from the operating contingency reserve.
Comments? Counselor Fowler?
Just a question for Darwin there. Is there big openings in the fence going around?
Mr. Mayor, through you, along the frontage, we had a berm and then there was a water-filled ditch along the highway. That always just had a temporary fence on top of it. Address that, the litter that was accumulating and that we filled and leveled that, we raised the height of the berm. And now it requires a fence along the entire length of the top of the berm. So, yeah, so it's, we're installing longer than what's there now.
So the fence doesn't go all the way around. You're not asking for a fence to go all the way around the waste site.
No, we're not, just across the frontage, complete the frontage and tie into what's there. And we're extending the one end slightly, turning it into the bush area, but not all around the site.
Okay, thank you.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Farmer. Be resolved the council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Purchase of Float Trailer, and that the purchase was approved in the 10-year capital plan 2025 to replace the existing float trailer. And the council approves the single source procurement for the purchase of the Gincor float trailer at a cost of $63,730, excluding HST, based on the quote received.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor?
Darwin, can you pull this with any of the dump trucks, like a tandem dump truck, or do you need a special tractor?
We can't tow it with all of our tandems, but part of the work that went into this was reviewing the specifications for selected tandems that we have, and they're able to tow this. It just depends on suspension axle configuration, setbacks and everything. So that's one of the factors that, made this purchase complicated, and we involved a consultant, a specialist with MTO compliance to make sure it would carry the required tonnage.
Counselor Fowler?
Yeah, we've been renting one of them from one of the local contractors over the years.
The only thing we've rented and hired hauled is the compactor. And that will have to continue. And with our new excavator, we haven't moved it much, but we have hired hauling it because our existing trailer that's scheduled for replacement anyway wouldn't carry the new compactor.
Factor's probably the heaviest thing we have to move.
I'm sorry?
The compactor, the heaviest thing we have to move around.
It is the heaviest, and it's the sheep's foot wheels on it are really hard on a deck. So the fellow that we have been hiring has a 1/2-inch steel plating on his deck covered with hardwood. And we can't really do that in a tag along. If we put a 1/2-inch steel deck on, then to try and haul that, we couldn't haul the required weight on it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? In favor? Carried. Item 13, Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the August 18th, 2025 notes of the Economic Development Task Force. And the council approves the updated 2025 EDTF work plan. And the council approves the updated 2023 to 2026 EDTF terms of reference. The council approves up to $15,000 for the attendance of three trade shows in 2025 so that the EDTF can proceed with the registrations in 2025 or 2026 with the funds coming from the Economic Development Reserve Fund. The council directs staff to include $15,000 for trade shows and staff prepared budget for the mayor's consideration as part of the 2026 budget. And the council approves the 2026 Winterfest event with the EDTF to proceed with the booking vendors, et cetera, for the February event, which currently has an annual budget of $3,000. The council approves the unveiling of the round 10 art murals to take place at the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner on Wednesday, October 8th, 2025 at the Clairville Community Hall.
Comments? Councilor Farmer.
Where are these,
Councilor Good.
where are these trade shows taking place?
Toronto, Ottawa. Oakville.
Councilor Good.
Excuse me, since we requested 15,000, what was it last year?
I don't know the number, Brooke might have it, but we only attended what? Brooke there? Corey, do you happen to know what, trade shows were attended last year?
I can't recall if it was 10 or 12. It was 10 or 12 for sure, but I just don't remember which one. Sorry about that.
1,000.
10,000 or 12,000. Yeah, we're right in that range.
So this is only a small increase relatively. Small,
Yeah.
is what we've been spending in the past. Realistically, I know we encourage and improve 3 trade shows. Is that going to be doable with volunteers? I don't know, I did read where you want to get, considering partnering with other people and so on. I know some of the private sector would get involved.
Equally doable.
Well, there's 3 people. So 3 different shows. I'm reading this.
No, not necessarily. We're planning on doing this with Central Contact. Be at least 2. At least 2 people to each trade, so I'm not sure who they be, or one person goes to all 3. And we haven't.
Just for clarity here, because I have a little difficulty with this when I read it, because it seems to be forcing the hand of the council, but it really isn't. It's just saying we want staff to put this in the budget. So the budget then goes to the mayor, which the mayor will not take it out. And then it will come to council at budget time for discussion or decision, whether we want full 15,000, whether we want more, and whether we want less or whatever. So all we're doing tonight, if the approval is saying staff, put this in and we'll discuss it at budget time. Is that about right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Can I, through you, Mr. Mayor? I'm not sure. Is it through you, Mr. Mayor? I'm not sure, Deputy Mayor Inglis, is that the $3,000 for the Winterfest? I think that you're asking for that to be approved now for the 2026 Winterfest, I believe, so you can get started, right? For the Winterfest money, the 3,000, which I think is what you budgeted
What is the word?
this year.
Sarah?
And the council approves the 2026 Winterfest event, so the EDTF can proceed with the booking vendors for the February event, which currently has an annual budget of $3,000.
Doesn't exactly fit. Really good. Planet.
Councilor Good?
Well, it seems to me like we're approving the request for the Winterfest to go ahead.
Right.
Last year it cost $2,000. So,
Yeah, it's just the way it's coming down. That we don't normally see this and you don't have to be used to it. Basically, I read this several times before I can decide, what was actually happening, how to work through it. I actually thought there was some, I thought the Winterfest budget was 6,000. So 3,000 is a much better figure.
we have a meeting tomorrow. It's a
Oh.
planned Winterfest, so we have to know if it's happening.
So this is the final, it's $3,000 for the Winterfest, not 6,000.
Any final comments? In favor? Minutes are accepted. Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee held July 28th, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item C, Caledonia Joint Fire Committee.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the meeting of the Caledonia Joint Fire Committee held June 6th, 2025.
Comments? In favor, sorry, Counselor Good?
Yes, we had a request for this past one there. That it was to find a spot that we could do it virtually. Because like the meeting only lasted, I'm gonna guess 20 minutes. And it's a long ways for some counselors, people to drive to get to. So we're looking at an alternative spot that we can do it with. Alternative methods.
In favor? Carried. Just the Housing Advisory Task Force has first meeting, so by next meeting, you should start seeing the minutes of that task force show up as well. Okay, item 14. Does any member of council wish to give a notice of motion? Did I miss one? I'm sorry. Item 13D, Environmental Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the notes of a meeting of the Environmental Task Force held August 26, 2025.
In favor? Sorry, any comments? In favor? Carried. Now, item 14, does any member of council wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none, we have no motions which written notice previously been given. Council verbal portfolios. So since the last meeting, I've attended a governance meeting at the county, looking at the procedural bylaw. It's like ours is really intense, and but that one is even more so. I did a presentation or an opening for county's open farms in Harrowsmith. That was really interesting evening. Attended the first night of Myers Cave Oktoberfest celebrations. I'm also a participant as the warden on the Frontenac Lennox and Addington health team. And that's a group of individuals who are working to connect people with doctors. And first thing they're doing is maximizing the use of the existing capabilities we have. Like if you're a doctor, do you have capabilities of taking one patient? And if you say yes, then they try to bring in that patient for that. But not every medical clinic especially wants to do this. They say, well, we have downtime, we have this, we have that. You can't force them. And also, it's also working with attracting additional doctors to the area. How that will work, I really don't know. We had our first Housing Advisory Task Force meeting. Yesterday, we had the Frontenac County Council meeting. What was really interesting as that council is actually the committee for management for Fairmont Home. So it's 128 bed long-term care facility. And there are discussions beginning about replacing the massive dollars. So we're working with the province. You seem to be making something that they're a long way away, like years. Anyway, the septic system failed and the environment, Ministry of Environment came in and said, you have to repair this, replace it. So $1.681 million to replace the system, of which the county is responsible for $537,996. Kingston pays a fair share of this as well, and then the ministry pays 50% and so on and so forth. It's a real complicated equation. We also talked about paramedics and the cost of them. And this will all come up in budget requests at the end of October. We talked about the, oh, by the way, that septic system, selected to take that Terra box, which was the communal system that we've been talking about. It is, in the long run, it may be more expensive, not by a lot, but by a bit. But if we do build a new home, it can be moved from A to B and it can be expanded. So there, and also if we're promoting it as part of the Broadland Municipal Service Corporation, talking about community services, this kind of put everything in on my place, see if this actually works. And it should. Finally, we talked through a couple issues on the KMP trail. We agreed to spend up to 77, apply for a grant, a rural Ontario development grant for up to $77,000. We'll try to cover the cost for $77,000 to replace the Antoine Creek Bridge on KMP Trail. That's in this newly expropriated territory that we bought, or land that we've expropriated, required. And we also talked about trail from 509 up to approximately the Latin border, not quite there, but we're planning to grant us the old grants for 35% of the state. Other than that, I did attend the North Frontenac Lake Association Alliance AGM. It was very interesting. And when he was there as well, but he was there as the chair or the president of the Buckshot Lake Association. And we missed the Service Corporation meeting. So, Mr. Wood?
Yes, I haven't had any lake association meetings. I have doing quite a few new road responses, but mine is things are quite an interest.
All right, Councilor Regis not online, right? Okay. Councilor Doodles not here. Councilor Herman? I'll take the part. Councilor Fowler?
Yes, for the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we had a meeting this last week, September 11th, and their ATV run called Rockin' the Trail was a huge success. There was about $25,000 given to Rides for Dad. They had over 1,000 ATVs doing a route. And the OPP were there and helped out for crossings and things like that. Then they had a concert in the evening. They had over 2,000 people attend the concert. And that was Roy, get his name, but anyway, one of the country's singing. Jason, yeah, he's really good. So what they've done is they've already got the invites and everything set up for next year. So we're going to do it again. There'll be different people participating, but it's a very successful ATV run if you're into that. Today was the SALT meeting, and I couldn't go because I was at another meeting. Apparently the next presentation they want to do is the Snow Road, and we've got a different couple topics that we're going to use, but I'm going to the coffee down there at Snow Road tomorrow and try to figure out a date and a time, which would be good for us who would have it, and we got an opening in October for Snow Road. And then subsequently, we're going to try to work our way across the township when it's our turn. So the next one will be in Alpha, and then Flavna, and maybe later on in Coin, but that'll be getting well into the spring.
Sorry, I'm not, Wayne, would Harold be receptive to something like this? All right, sorry, go ahead.
We had a presentation the other day at Charbert Lake. That's for the other half for the central Frontenac, and it was on advice on home safety regarding the police using auxiliary police officers to go around homes and tell people how to make them more safe and make it a little harder for somebody to break in, and it's working really well. let's see, today I was, attended the OPP detachment board meeting. I was sworn in as a member. And also today we passed a procedural bylaws, travel remuneration bylaw, budget administrative bylaw. And then there was reports from the OPP, operating budget and, 2026 board draft budget. These will be coming up in the future. We're talking about the stats and for the different offenses that have been happening and the activity of the police in our area. And it was done by Staff Sergeant Snyder, who's going in for Staff Sergeant Underhill. One of the things they're looking at, targeting areas where there's a concern, a safety concern within the county where they need more enforcement in that, and they're looking more at having quality type enforcement that'll prevent any danger and make things safer. And also, they're not that interested with the quality or quantity of tickets. So it was a very interesting meeting. I really enjoyed it. Our next meeting will be on December 18th at the same place. It's going to be at the Central Frontenac new municipal buildings in their council chamber.
Thank you. Councilor Ingles. The different angles.
I have not attended any meetings. I did get an email from the Lake Association who are concerned about keeping updated with any new proposals. To that point. I don't know where that is. I've heard that. Would like to be reaffirmed.
Okay. That, anybody else? So item 17, introduction and reading of bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. 2025-41 to close, stop up and sell a part of the 66-foot original road allowance. 2025-42 to authorize use of alternative voting methods for the 2026 municipal election. 2025-43 to sign an automatic aid agreement with Central Frontenac, and that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Okay, that brings us to item 18, which is the public forum, and members of the public are invited to come up to the microphone and voice an opinion on any item or agenda topic that was introduced tonight. It's not on the agenda. Can't entertain. Anyone wish to step forward? Marnie, is there anyone online? All right, thank you, folks. You know, we do this, right? So we are going to a closed meeting. Yeah.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council retires to closed session at 6:19 p.m. to adopt minutes of a closed meeting held August 28, 2025, and to receive information regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before an administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board.
In favor? Carry. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break and we have to clear the council chamber for the first meeting. Thank you very much. We'll be back when it's over for a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Rise and report from the closed session. Where council adopted minutes of the closed meeting and held August 28, 2025, and received information regarding litigation, potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Excuse me. My apologies. Go ahead.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council accepts and approves option A as confidentially discussed in closed session under item 5A regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried. Affirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-44, being a bylaw to confirm all actions or proceedings of council for its regular meeting held September 18th, 2025, be read the first and second and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Adjournment?
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved the council adjourns the meeting at 7:10 PM until September 26th, 2025, or at the call of the chair.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried. Great. Thanks for coming. Thanks going for, they were good. If Hoodle had been here, there wouldn't be any left. Which one?